Hola, welcome to Poco a Poco.
Hola, Tanya. ¿Qué tal?
Muy bien. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, today we're going to talk about Iglesia de San Nicolás de Bari y San Pedro Mater.
That's a very long name for a church.
Yeah, I think it's the Church of Saint Nicholas of Bari and Saint Peter the Martyr. That's what I'm going to translate that to.
Basically, yes. Which is a gorgeous, gorgeous, overly gorgeous in some ways, church in the middle of Valencia, in the middle of the old town.
It is a bit flashy. I would say I think Liberace visited it once and said, we can tone this down a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. I was not prepared. I will say when I went, I was like, oh, this looks like a fun thing. Let's go inside. And then I was like,
Right.
oh, wow.
Right. And it's they called it the Sistine Chapel of Valencia.
Yeah.
And for due reason. I mean, the thing is covered from inch to inch with covered in paintings, frescoes, bejeweled. I mean, the thing is insane.
And the building itself, I mean, so we can jump in, I guess. It is an example of the coexistence of the building with a Gothic structure from the 15th century. And then, as you just mentioned, the spectacular Baroque decoration and like just beautiful artwork of the 17th century. So
right.
insane.
And I will say this has happened in other churches, that they took these austere Gothic churches in many places during the Baroque movement, and then some rich benefactors came in into some churches and said, I need this to be a little bit more fabulous, as you say.
And it is fabulous. So in 1981, it became a National Historic and Artistic Monument, and it was restored in 2016. We'll get into a little bit of that a bit later. But it's also a museum. So it is a working Catholic church as well as being a museum. So when you go visit, it is 15 euros to go visit.
It is. It's gone up. Last year we visited, or about a year and a half ago, I think we paid $9 to get in. And
I paid $9 when I went. Yeah.
And I will say we had a friend we had a dear friend in town, and we went this weekend, and it was 15. So I can confirm that it is now 15.
Yeah, and I mean it is spectacular. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons that needed to go up in price, and I think a lot of that is just the amount of people coming in. It maybe dwindles it a little bit, maybe.
Right. And I would like to add, though, too, when people visit it, that you can miss it because it's not a church that you would see from the street. Like, there is ways to see the church like down an alleyway. It's like the sides and the back are bare to the streets, but the front where you entrance, it's just like shops and restaurants. It's just a little doorway, right? You don't notice.
It's a very cute, it's probably like one of my favorite streets. Like, you walk down the street and you got alleyways with restaurants with seating outside, and it's a cute, very, like we said, like the old part of town. So you may be coming from the market or some other church that you visited, and then you come down and you could absolutely walk by it. Absolutely.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, it's just there's a little sort of entry area and a door.
Right. I would say Google Map it and follow your little dot, because you can easily walk right past it. For sure.
And that was one of the reasons for me why when we went through the door and we ended up in this church, I was like not expecting this experience at all. So the history of the church. Do you want to start?
Yeah. So originally, that site, there was a mosque there because, and I think we've talked about this before, and we'll talk about it again, that the Muslim Islamic, there was an Islamic caliphate throughout southern Spain and eastern Spain, and so there was a mosque there on the site. And then during the reconquest of Spain, or the reconquest of Valencia by King Jaime I of Aragon, I think that happened in October of 1238, something like that.
October 9th, specifically, because that's a big day here. We even have a hospital named
that's right.
October 9th, right? So the October 9th is a big day for Valencia. But 1238.
That's Valencia Day for sure.
And that was when it was dedicated. After when that all happened, then it was dedicated to St. Nicholas of Bari, and it was one of the first 12 Christian parishes in Valencia. So it was a very, very early church. That was dedicated here in Valencia.
And then years later, they built an altar to the first martyr of the Dominicans, the Saint Peter the Martyr, which I mentioned that name earlier.
Yep.
So this church has two saints as the patrons of the church. So that's kind of interesting as well.
I think that's kind of unique. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for the architecture in the 15th century, the temple was rebuilt and enlarged into its current Valencian Gothic look. And
Right, which is the outside.
the
What we see now is
outside,
just science.
yes,
Right.
because there were some changes made later on the inside, but originally it would have been fully
Gothic
Valencian
inside and
Gothic
out.
inside and out.
Right.
And then it's what's unique. It has, a lot of these sort of cathedral type churches. They have lots of little chapels. This has 6 chapels on each
Okay.
side. Is that
So there's
12?
12.
So there's 12.
Well, 12 apostles.
There you
Makes
go.
sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes. And then there was an expansion done when Alfonso de Borgia, is that how you want to say that?
So yeah, so it's Borja, I think you would say
Borja.
in Espanol, but what that really is the Borgias, because
Yeah.
the Borgias were from the Valencian region, and then they changed the spelling to Borgia when they moved to Italy and started taking over the church and doing all the stuff that you can watch on whatever HBO, Showtime, whoever shows the Borgias, you can get that history from
There
that.
you go. Go watch that. He was the
Yeah.
rector of the parish, Alfonso de Borgia, and then he also later became Pope Calixtus III. Is that how you say that?
I
That's
think, sure. I
maybe.
mean, I don't know
So
what X's are pronounced and what are not when
yeah,
they're
but I think
not.
that's
So.
that's a bit exciting that there was a pope that was originally a rector of the parish here in Valencia
Yeah.
as well. So
Hmm.
there's a few little tidbits of interesting details with this church as well.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And then, as we said, it was originally it had an austere Gothic look, but then in the 17th century, this Baroque architect Juan Bautista Perez Castiel covered the interior, drenched the interior with elaborate stucco and reliefs to create sculptures
Right.
and change the complete look of the interior of the
Yeah,
church
so
to.
he was sort of in charge of the architectural aspect of the decoration, not the painting, right? So
Okay.
he did
Hmm.
he did this he did all this stucco relief work that created sculptures that you'll see, and then he also added arches over the chapels to kind of cover the gothic-y look of the pointed arches. So he tried to soften it
Hmm.
up a little bit, and that laid the base for the painting renovation that
Right.
was then done.
So they literally laid the canvas
Yeah.
for the master painter to King Carlos II of Spain. His name was Antonio Palomino, and he came in for the renovation. He created, and he's also known for creating the frescoes for the dome of the Basilica of Our Lady of the
For
Forsaken.
soccer.
In Spanish. In Espanol is Basilica de la Virgen de los Desamparados. Is that close? Does
Close
that sound
enough,
good?
I think.
Close
Yeah.
enough?
So he was actually brought in to, like you said, so he was brought in to sort of design the frescoes, and he also did the Iglesia de los Santos Juanes, the Church of Saint John. But
Right, which are two major churches here in
yeah, so he
Valencia.
was a big deal, and
Hmm.
he was such a big deal that he didn't actually need to paint it. He just needed to design it.
Right, right.
And then somebody else was brought in, like one of his proteges was actually brought in to actually do the painting, and that was a gentleman called Dionis Vidal, and he painted the the ceiling of this church. I mean, I can't believe it didn't take 500 years, but it was 1697 to 1700.
There's no way that took 3 years. I'd like a verification. I went triple because that is insane. How could you
That's
do that? I
insane.
mean, so I
He
think
had
we had, I was
people.
gonna say Antonio had him, and then he had
Yes.
people because there's no way you can do that in
I
three
mean, I
years.
suppose if that's all you're doing, but I just feel like you would go crazy. And maybe he did. I don't know. But yeah, that seems insane.
Yeah, yeah. There's not enough coffee to get that finished for
It's not. Or sanity. And actually, maybe because of that, both these painters are actually in the mural, in the fresco on the
They
right.
put themselves
They
in
put,
it,
which
yeah.
I would if I was going to spend 3 years like upside down painting a ceiling. I'm putting myself in there too.
Right, because your signature could easily get washed out, but if your whole body's in the picture, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, if you ever go see it, it's amazing.
What I think is amazing about this church now with all these paintings, and it's like a Where's Waldo. It's just so
Mm-hmm.
much coming at you. But
Yeah.
now they have a light show, to the church. And so when you go in now, I think that's why they raised the price, because there's now this big light show, and it's like video mapping where they'll shoot images on it, but what they're doing is highlighting like the cherubs. They'll highlight different elements, as well as like wash it in flowers and make it all cool, like
Okay.
like this video stuff. But then they highlight. But what they also do is they highlight the Gothic elements that you forget to see, the ribbing of the arches and stuff. So that'll all get lit up, so you kind of have a feeling of what it looked like before all this Baroque
Oh,
stuff
that's
was
cool.
thrown
I
in
mean,
it.
I feel that's really necessary because it's incredibly overwhelming. Like I would want to go back 3 or 4 times just to take in all these different elements, because what you have is an incredibly complex canvas that they're painting on, because it's not a flat ceiling. You have what they
Right.
call lunetos, which are these vaulted, it's a vaulted ceiling, but because of all the windows, it's vaulted like 12 times. And then inside of each of those vaults is more layering of dimensions of ceiling. So it's not just like this flat canvas. And then inside of that,
Right.
like you're saying, you have these elements that are supposed to be Gothic, or the bits that they've covered up, the neo Gothic area, and all this kind of thing. It's a lot. So I can imagine a light show being a very cool addition.
It is very cool. And
Yeah.
and I've been to the church twice now, and that definitely made it seem,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know that, right? Like
Yeah, you'd need to
it
see
brought
it.
me back. Yeah.
Yeah, because I did. So each lunetto, so each of these sort of alcoves, each of these vaulted areas is representing a different miracle or event in the life of the two saints. So on down one side of the
Okay.
church, you have the life of one of the saints, and then the other side you have the life and miracles of the other one, and then on top of that you have like angels and saints and other martyrs and other figures from Christian virtue. So it's like it's a
Right.
lot. It's just a lot.
Can we share with the audience the two terms that I did not know when we were doing our research, which is
Mm-hmm.
the left side of the church is called the gospel side,
Mm-hmm.
and the right side is the epistle side. And I grew up as a Catholic
And
and
you
never knew
didn't know
that.
that, but you weren't sitting
I
on the
didn't
right
know
side of the
that.
church.
I
So
mean,
the
so it's like a
gospel,
boat,
yeah,
right? It's like a
exactly.
boat. You're port side or starboard side. Is that the
Oh
two,
my
right?
gosh, please don't make me test that one. So the gospel side, which is the left, is the side of St. Peter, and the epistle side, which is the right. Did I say that? Did I say right twice, or did I say left?
No, you said
I
left
did
for
say
St.
that. But then the
Peter. Yeah, yeah.
epistle, the right side is St. Nicholas. But then you have all these other things. And I did the audio tour where you can
Okay.
pick, like, get the audio and it explains things. And it does talk about each lunetto separately.
Mm-hmm.
I was not very good at paying attention, and I lost which lunetto it was talking about at some point because I
Okay.
was there with a bunch of friends that were visiting, because that's when you go. So we were there with a bunch of people, and of course you start talking to your friend in between, and I forgot which lunetto. And if you lose track of which lunetto you're on, that's the end of it. You don't know what's going on because
Right.
you're looking at the wrong thing, but they all have saints and angels and everything in it. So it's very interesting, though. Definitely worth it.
Mm-hmm. Um, but things keep changing, right? So they've had the light show,
That's
but
true.
they blew up Baroque all over this church, but there have been updates since then. So in the 19th century, they had an architect named Timoteo Calvo, and he added some neo-Gothic elements. And I think there was like a new facade to the church and added stained glass windows and
Mm-hmm.
a large neo-Gothic rose window. But thankfully did not change the Baroque interior. So they left that, which
Which
was
I'm kind of
thankfully
surprised in a way. I feel like there might be a point where someone walked in there and was like, "Is this too much? Maybe we should paint over
right.
half of it." But that never happened. So yeah. And then in 2016, led by an architect, Carlos Campos, what they did with the Institute of Heritage Restoration of the Polytechnic University of Valencia, they spent 4.7 million euros to renovate. They didn't make changes. They were renovating the frescoes and the stuccos and the structural elements to make sure that everything was still beautiful and structurally
Right.
sound. So that was a real, just a renovation.
We call that zhuzhing up. They
Yes,
zhuzhed it up a little
that's
bit.
what they did without changing anything.
Anything's right. Fluffed a
Yes.
few pillows, reinforced some things that might have been falling, right?
Exactly. And if all of that is not enough, there is an extended collection of artwork and sculptures from various famous historical artists also in the church that you can visit.
Mhm.
We'll leave that
Right.
there because I can't get into like all the different.
There's a million
There's a
names
million
of
names
artists. There's a million names of
there.
artists. And if we tell you everything, then you'll know too much when you go. You have to
Yeah.
go and be surprised, right? And so you can go pretty much anytime you want. It is a museum, but there are times when it is closed, and Mondays is one of them. They do not allow visitors in, yet it's open to worshipers. And Mondays are dedicated to Saint Nicholas of Bari, which allows the faithful to make wishes, especially regarding issues related to childhood, family, health, or serious financial difficulties.
I quite love this, that it's not...
So I think we should all go on Monday. I think Monday's a good day.
Well, I feel like it's a nice thing that obviously they're doing a regular service. I don't think everyone that's going is trying to get a wish done, but I think it's the wishing part, I think, is a really nice sort of aspect, but it's a little excessive what you have to do to get your wish granted. So
okay, so tell us. I want to see what you think is excessive.
Well,
because I know what you have to do, but I want the audience to hear what you think is excessive.
So you have to go on 3 consecutive Mondays. That's the first thing. You must visit on foot. No driving your scooter up to the door. You know, you've actually got to walk
you've been there. It's hard to drive down that street and park.
I wouldn't want to drive down that street, but I would imagine you can't even drive part of the way. You have to, from your house, you better walk the whole way. So that's
for you in the mountains, that would be hard for you, but for us in the city, it's just 15-20 minutes away.
And I know this is going to be shocking for everybody that might be listening, but this would be hard for both of us. You have to remain respectfully silent throughout the entire journey and once inside the church, and continue in silence and pray before the relic of Saint Nicholas. So that would be hard.
Are you trying to say I couldn't be silent for the whole way? I think let's do it. Let's see. Let's see who breaks the wish
like
first.
That seems like a challenge. Me, probably. But that's what you need to do to have a wish granted by Saint Nicholas. So at least there's a goal there, which is nice.
There is, and I've heard from friends that there's other churches here that, I don't really know much about the Catholic tradition, but a Spanish friend of mine was like, oh, you have to go to this church to make that wish and that church to make that wish. So maybe we have to get into some iconography. I don't know. What do you call that? Kind of
just get to know what all the things are and then go to each church and make all your wishes. I mean, it can't hurt, right?
It can't hurt,
Okay. Well, there's a challenge for the week. And that's all we know about the Iglesia de Saint Nicholas de Bari y San Pedro Martir.
This is true. So we hope you come to Valencia and get a chance to see this church, because it is breathtaking
and spectacular and over the top.
Yeah. Until then, that's our Poco. Ciao, Tanya.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Our Spain Poco a Poco. Since you love us so much, please do go on to our social media and follow us and like us and subscribe where you're listening, because it really does help us to grow and stick around and do what we are very much enjoying doing.
And, give us a shout out on the social medias. Give us a comment on what you would like to hear us talk about. We like to hear ourselves speak, but we do want to make this, informative for our listeners.
Absolutely, yeah. You can comment on one of our posts, or you can send us a message through our Spain Facebook page or Instagram. So we would love to hear from you.
Yes, we would. Till the next episode.
Bye.